U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will be touching down in the Middle East in the coming hours, seeking to secure a new truce between Israel and Hamas. It will be his fifth trip to the region since the Hamas terror attacks on October 7th, and he'll be making stops in Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Qatar and Israel. The proposed ceasefire deal would allow the phased release of Israeli hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. The negotiations come as Israel continues its attacks across the Gaza Strip. The Hamas-run health ministry says at least 30 Palestinians were killed in central Gaza on Sunday.
Wounded Palestinians arrive at this hospital in central Gaza, in what seems to be an endless flow of stretchers. Medics scramble to help the injured. Gaza's few operational hospitals are running at the limits of their capacity, with personnel left with no choice but to treat patients on the floor. As Israel attacks targets across the Gaza Strip, residents say there is no place left to hide.
The occupation army claimed that Deir al-Bala is a safe area. We were safe and secure living in our homes. Suddenly, after midnight, we were surprised by F-16 missiles that shook the world, shook the earth, destroyed everything.
Israel says its operations are focused on eliminating Hamas. This footage was released by the Israeli army. It says it shows Israeli troops conducting raids at Hamas facilities in Han Yunis, in the south of the Gaza Strip. After almost 5 months of fighting, international mediators are working to secure a new truce between Hamas and Israel. But as diplomats are still trying to secure a humanitarian ceasefire, for many Gazans, it is already too late.
Our correspondent, Rebecca Ritters, is following this story for us in Jerusalem. Rebecca, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is heading to the Middle East yet again. What's on his agenda?
Yes, Terry, that's the fifth visit that Antony Blinken has made to the region since October 7, since those horrific attacks and the ensuing war. Absolutely top of his agenda on this trip will be this potentially imminent temporary ceasefire deal that everyone is talking about and hoping will come to fruition. Another item on top of his agenda, and something that he reiterated as he was getting on the plane to leave for this trip, was the absolute urgency to get more humanitarian assistance to avoid a catastrophe, or the catastrophe that we're seeing currently in Gaza. So they will be absolutely two priorities on the agenda, as is the way, as we just mentioned, it's his fifth trip, and he always often is another thing that is really at the forefront of the US mind is, of course, what's going to happen in a post-conflict Gaza, and it's very likely that he'll have some discussions with people here, certainly in Israel, regarding that topic. The US really pushing for a Palestinian state, for a two-state solution in the aftermath, and looking for the Palestinian Authority, currently the people leading in the West Bank, who are looking after the Palestinians in the West Bank, looking for them to take leadership in Gaza in a post-conflict scenario. That is something that Israel has vehemently refused or refuted, and saying that that is not how they see it panning out. So some discussions on that, but certainly top of the agenda will be this potentially imminent ceasefire agreement that has been laid on the table.
Talk to us more about that ceasefire proposal, Rebecca. What details do we know about it?
Well, this deal that's currently being assessed by all parties involved was set out, or the framework was set out a little over a week ago in Paris among negotiators, particularly Qatar, Egypt. The Saudis are also involved, the US, of course, and they've set out this framework that is a little bit in keeping with the one that we saw earlier, or late last year, I should say, in November. It's looking at a longer pause in the fighting, this time up to 6 weeks, or at least 6 weeks, pause in fighting to allow for humanitarian aid into the Strip, and of course to allow for a release of hostages. That would happen in stages, we believe, similar to last time, with of course women, the elderly and the infirm being in the first tranche, and then looking to release more and more as that pause continues. Of course, the devil, Terry, is in the detail, and that is what is being hammered out by both sides. Hamas have not come out in agreement yet. Israel looking as though they are at least okay with most of the terms of this deal, although they're not wanting to look like they're going to give away too many concessions either, particularly members of Benjamin Netanyahu's far-right cabinet. They are calling to make sure that this deal doesn't look like they're giving too many concessions. So there's still a lot of detail to be hammered out. It is hopeful that this could happen in the coming days, if not weeks, but it's really not over the line until it's over the line.
Rebecca, thank you very much. Our correspondent Rebecca Ritters there in Jerusalem.